Hi, this is Paul on the Timberwalkers channel, and today I am replacing the refrigerator in my old travel trailer. This one has apparently bit the dust, and so I'm pulling it out, and I have not completely decided what I'm going to do as far as replacing it. I think I'm probably just going to go with a compact refrigerator you might see in a college dorm or an apartment, something like that. I will note that this is not a one-person job. Don't be like me. The other thing is, I'm not suggesting that this is something that you should attempt. Just showing you what I'm doing here on my old travel trailer. Try to get a few more months or years of enjoyment out of it. Now, the refrigerator in this old travel trailer I have is a Dometic Americana 2652. As far as connections in the back, there was a 110 volt plug that I needed to pull out. These two wires provide 12 volt power, so those needed to be disconnected. I also had to disconnect the gas line, which was just unscrewing that one nut there. And then this black hose is apparently just a water drain that was held in place with a couple of hose clamps. Oh, and then last but not least, there were a couple of screws in the back that were anchoring the refrigerator down into the travel trailer, so I had to pull those out. And then there were 4 screws in the front. I'll show you where those were. Well, it was not pretty, but I did get it out. I was hoping I could get it out without any destruction or disassembly so that I could preserve the option of replacing the cooling unit, which is all this collection of pipes and fins on the back. But it was just half, 3/4 of an inch wider than the door opening. So I tried to get the trim off that would let me get it through the door, and I think all that trim is glued on. So I ended up just bending it to be able to just barely squeeze it through. Again, it was not pretty, but it's out, and so that means that I will definitely be going with a residential compact type refrigerator. And here's where I had to bend the trim on both sides to, again, just barely squeeze it through the door. As I mentioned earlier, there were 4 screws in the front of the refrigerator anchoring it into the travel trailer, located in the corners. There was one in that hole, one there, and then one in each of the top corners. So I am far from an expert on RV appliances, but the small amount of research I did suggests that this yellow residue is what tells me that the cooling unit here has failed. Okay, so now it's time to shop for a replacement, and of course it's got to fit into this spot. I've taken my measurements, and ideally it'd be nice to find something that would fit right into those dimensions. Probably to get something that fits within the height, it's going to be quite a bit more narrow, so there's going to be some trim work involved around it. You could potentially lower the platform to give more clearance and go with a taller unit, but I'm not sure I want to invest that much time and energy into rebuilding that cabinet. I do still need to put a plug on the gas line and need to somehow cap off this 12 volt service. Of course, already has 110 volt electrical supply coming in to power the new refrigerator, and then I'll need to probably just cap off this water drain line and tuck it away somewhere. There's this access panel behind the refrigerator, which is of course no longer needed. And then of course there is a vent in the roof that was here for the gas refrigerator, which is no longer needed. But I think I'll probably just stuff some insulation up in there and not go to any more effort as far as trying to seal that off. A little bit of paint, a little bit of stain, a little bit of caulk, a little bit of trim work. I've got the back access panel sealed off with a piece of plywood. Installed Reflectix insulation on the back side of that piece of plywood covering the access panel. I've got just a piece of foam board for insulation up there, so I'll need to cover that with something. But basically, I think I'm pretty much ready for the refrigerator when it arrives. The refrigerator is in and the installation is about 98% complete. Just a little bit of touch-up stain work to do. A couple of considerations if you decide to go this route on an older travel trailer like this is, number one, you want to make sure that you have adequate clearance around the refrigerator. These residential style refrigerators may or may not be designed to install inside of a cabinet. And then the other consideration, assuming that this is a travel trailer that's going to be pulled behind a vehicle from place to place, is it does need to, of course, be anchored down securely. And the solution that I decided on was to build a frame around the refrigerator to hold it in place. And I was able to identify an attachment point where I can attach that frame to the refrigerator. And I did also manage to get it screwed down to the base of the cabinet at the bottom in the back. Here's a close-up of the frame around the refrigerator. I'll note that I placed the refrigerator in the cabinet and then built the frame around it. And also I was careful to order a refrigerator with a reversible door so that it would open in the direction that I needed it to. And since these refrigerators don't latch shut, I put in a couple of hooks so that I can strap some bungee cords around each door to keep the doors from flying open as we go down the road. Another consideration if you go this route is that you will need to leave the refrigerator turned off for some period of time after you arrive. Otherwise, you can damage the compressor because apparently there's oils that get moved about and they need to settle back down into the compressor. This refrigerator ended up being quite roomy. Plenty of space for food inside, so I think we're going to be happy with it. I will say that this project was one that took a lot longer than I expected. I probably have about 20 hours invested in this. I think you could do it more quickly if you knew what the heck you were doing. As far as costs, the refrigerator was about $300 as opposed to something like $1,800, $2,000 for a typical gas electric refrigerator that's made for an RV. And then the only other cost I had was for the plug for the gas line. Everything else I had on hand, all the lumber, all the adhesives, all the fasteners, all the brackets. So if you had to purchase all that material and fasteners and such, you'd count on maybe an extra $30-$40 or something like that. So that's it. I think we're going to be happy with it. Certainly if you have any comments, if you see any glaring errors I made, if you have an idea about a better way to do this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I do try to keep an eye on those. So thanks for watching and happy camping.